Okay, we're live. All right. So I want to say ETM Hotep to all the viewers that are watching now and all of you all who will be watching in the archives. And ETM Hotep means welcome in peace. Roughly translated as welcome in peace. All right. And that's just a standard greeting that a lot of us say. Some people shorten it just simply to Hotep. You know, Hotep, the word Hotep itself is denoting an offering, and it's by way of an offering that people become satisfied and content, which goes into the word peace. When you're at peace, you're resting, you're sitting, you're satisfied, you're content. All right, so we just welcome everyone with content. Have a seat, listen in and chime in when you want. The chat is open on the YouTube channel, and I'll try to keep my eye on it. All of us on the panel will try to keep our eyes on the chat if there's any comments, questions, and everything. But welcome to our Divine Words Wednesdays. And on our Divine Words Wednesdays, we usually take this opportunity to edify the viewers, those who are watching live and in the archive. So we deal with different topics, and we also deal with topics that we are recommended by other people. So a lot of our Divine Words Wednesdays, we spent time going over the proper methods of transliterating and translating, where we show the four different steps, the four main steps of actually transliterating and translating the Seshew mdw-ntr, which most people know as Egyptian hieroglyphs. So we've spent quite a few Wednesdays going over that, and then we'll cover different topics. So for tonight, our topic is about aliens, UFOs, and even dinosaurs, whether or not they're written inside of the Seshew mdw-ntr or the hieroglyphs. All right. But before we go in and before we start to discuss it, we've adopted, it's become our custom to give an invocation, a voice offering, and what most people may know as the Hotep Dinasut, or an offering formula. All right, so we want to start things off that way, and I'm gonna switch over my screen and pass the mic on over to Sonnet Tonica.
Well, so I'll just go ahead and read the offering formula. And before I do that, I'll just like to note that the pronunciation of the transliteration is tentative, so this is not an accurate pronunciation. But yet, I'll go ahead and do that. So it goes Hotep Dinasu, Weser Neb Jadu, Necha A Neb Abichu, DF Beret Heru, Tech Heneket, Ka Aped, Shes Menechet, Het Nebet, Neferet, Webet, Ankhet, Necher Im, and Ka, and Imahu, Anku, Ma Keru. And the translation is an offering which the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, great god, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in bread, beer, ox, fowl, alabaster, linen, everything good and pure on which a god lives, for the car of the revered one, the ancestors justified. I'd put the ancestors, but when you read it, you can actually put the name of whoever that you want to put that has transitioned on.
All right, excellent. Iker, excellent.
Iker.
Yes, definitely. And so we want to set the tone and set the stage with as I said, what's referred to as the Hotep Dinasut, or the offering formula, and that was done excellent, dua. So all right, so in moving on, and by the way, that starting things off that way has been a custom of Dr. Raketi Amin, and witnessing and seeing her do it, we've adopted the same thing. And it's similar to how when a lot of us gather at different functions, especially African-centered functions, you'll see a ritual libation ritual. People will pour libation and go through a ritual and do recitations. and things. But obviously, we can't do that on social media. So the Hotep Dinasur, the offering formula, is used instead. All right. So, all right. Now, with that said, we can go ahead and chime in. But before we chime in, let me make sure everyone introduce themselves who are on the panel. And I'll start off with myself. My name is Wu Jiao, and I'm gonna pronounce it slowly because my name is butchered. I think my name is probably one of the most butchered names going on right now. But it's Wu Ja U, like Wu Tang Clan. Wu Ja U. All right. Wu Jiao min ib eri ma'at. All right. And but people call me Wu Jiao, and that's perfectly fine. I go by Wu Jiao all day long. All right. So that's me, and I'll just pass the mic. Everyone can introduce themselves.
ETM welcome everybody. This is Government Damian Everly, nicknamed Damo, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City. Hotep, welcome.
Hotep family, this is Antoine Germain, pronounced A, and Twan Germain. Also go by Hush Your Mouth on Google Plus. ETM Hotep.
Hotep, my name is Maureen Akinyi. Maureen Tonica Akinyi, but keep it simple. It's Tonica. That's easier to pronounce. And I'll just like to say welcome, and I hope you guys enjoy the show.
ETM Hotel. I go by the name Kofi Paisa. Thank you for tuning into the show.
All right. All right. Okay. So, all right, now everybody's, we've introduced ourselves and everything. And also, I want to say, ETM Hotep or Hotep to those who are watching already. And just to give a quick shout out to Brother Strife, 777, Monica, Brother Sean, Atum Amin, Christopher Withers, and Jehuti Ma'at. All right, that's all who I see in the chat so far. And by all means, chime in. We're going to keep our eyes on the comments and any questions or comments. All right. So the subject matter for tonight, Divine Words Wednesdays, has to deal with a topic that comes up every now and then, but very often. Okay. And it pops up every now and then. We see it. It'll die down, then it'll come up. It'll die down, it'll come up. And that topic is related to aliens, UFOs, and even dinosaurs existing in the Egyptian hieroglyphs that we know as Seshew mdw-ntr. All right, so we're just gonna talk about it and address it. And this topic was recommended to us because it's kind of like a hot topic that's being talked about right now, I guess, for the past week or so. All right, so we're just gonna talk about it and address it. So first, we're going to start off with Brother Antoine, and if you have your screen, I'll lock it on your screen and pass the mic to you.
Oh, sure, no problem. It should be up and ready to go.
Yep, got it. Mm-hmm.
All right, excellent. Yeah, as you said, it's definitely a hot topic, and it seems to be a lot of pseudo-ship is at an all-time high nowadays. For some reason, like you said, it goes away for a little bit, then pops back up every month. And I really boil that down to methodology. People just not taking the time to put forth the effort to cross-reference and to make sure that they have support of what their claims are. I know a lot of times when I teach persuasive writing, one of the main things we do is always address your counter argument before they bring it to you. And so it's an example of a meme where it's talking about the Ankh. This is an example of what I mean by methodology. Here we see a person making the claim, the circle of Willis, which is found at the bottom view of the brain, and it looks like he's comparing that or making a connection to the Ankh. Whereas in this meme created by Asar Imhotep, we see an example of what I mean by methodology, where we have the Ankh and we have some conjugates, and we can see where it correlates with different African language, and where we might stem and see how it connects with the life as it relates to the mentioned letter. And so my whole purpose in showing that is just to show that different level, a different form of presentation when you have information and it's been cross-referenced and checked. When I came back from Kemet, I had a lot of Masons come up to me saying, "Oh man, did you see this image in Kemet? I know the compass in the rows and the compass rows and the square and different things like that." Matter of fact, I had a brother send me this photo here, and he's like, "Man, can you break down this medunetter for me and tell me what it means?" And so I had to, let him know that after I looked at it and did my own research, this is actually a book cover. It does not, correlate or translate to what he thought it meant at that time. And so just going through and making sure that what you posting and what you present to people is factual, or that you've at least done your due diligence on the research. Information that's false, or presenting pictures that you picked up from here and there just to make a claim and so you can sound good. And with that being stated, man, it's this elastic threat level assessment has to go ahead and let the conscious community know that the assessment, we're at an all-time high of red. We're at the Uncle Ruckus stage. People on that BS. And basically what this threat level means is characterized by illogical reasoning, misinformation, lack of evidence, lack of literature review, outrageous claims, incoherent themes. And we'll go through a few examples. This was also shared with us from Brother Asarim Hotel. And so I just want to, kind of give the audience a debriefing before we go into the information about the UFOs and the aliens, as far as making sure we take the time to put forth the effort to, if we're going to present something to the people, make sure it's accurate and make sure we've done, our cross-referencing check.
Okay, excellent. If you leave that up for a second, yeah, that's I like that scholastic threat level assessment. We have at the top green, we have Shekanta Geop, and it's green. So it says highly organized and well-supported arguments backed by evidence, experimentation, primary sources, etc. Is governed by methodology, which includes theories, paradigms, assumptions, and concepts that give life, interpretation, and meaning to data. Seeks to solve problems and/or fill in knowledge gaps. So that's the level where we want to be, all right? And I think he appropriately named that Shekanta Geop, because for people who don't know, Shekanta Geop is, man, he's one of our modern day greatest scholars who basically planted the seed in a fertile ground for the unity of Africa and the African conceptualization of being, of the cultures, the traditions, and things like that. And if you look at his work, a lot of his work that was done, and he's through various different multiple or multidisciplinary approaches, because he was skilled in various different scientific disciplines, and he utilized those tools and that knowledge to actually fill in the gaps and piece things together to show a cultural unity. And he was all about a African federation, to unify that. So there's people who were his disciples or students or even colleagues that still continue to this very day, such as Dr. Theophilo Benga, such as Dr. Riketi Amen, and a whole host of others, And Shekanta Diop is actually attributed to starting, quote unquote, the African school of anthropology and all the different disciplines that fall up under anthropology through archaeology, linguistics, and things like that, or the Dakar school or the Diopian school. There's various different names, but it's a model, the African model to the approach of these things. So he's attributed with being the founder of that, and then people can look him up and find all of the other things that he's done. I mean, so many things that he's done. And then what do you have next? CNN, CNN, which is not scholarship in the traditional sense, but more like a television news segment. This level is more so associated with journalism. It simply reports data with little to no analysis. This level is characterized by sound bites, surface probing, and summary statements. Although there is a fact check process, there is no literature review, experimentation, or theory, etc. No in-depth analysis. There's no effort to solve a problem or fill in the gaps. Now, a lot of that's pretty much we see that. We see that. We actually see all three of these, but we definitely see that, and that's appropriately titled CNN. Like he says, journalism. And then you already read the bottom one, so I'm not going to read that.
I did want to. It is the last part where it says, "Look, this level seeks to cause confusion, feed ego. This level can be recognized by the nigga please, lip turned up face, different foolishness."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the sign is given for that. The symbol given for that is Set or Satuk or Sutesh, as people may know, the quote unquote arch enemy of Heru, Horus, because as far as confusion and chaos. But we don't want to be at the red level, and then we wanna be at the green, and we don't want to be at the red. So so that's good, and that was done by Asara Motep. And that was from, I don't know if it's, oh, that's just that part right there. Yeah, so that's good. And that kind of brings us over into our topic. So let's just going into our topic. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's well, is there any comments?
No. I was just saying I've been on the red level before. Yeah.
Oh, right. Hey, yeah, that's a good point though. That's the thing. See, we all may have been on any of those levels at any given time. We just want to stay at the green level. Because in our growth, because we all mature physiologically, through our physical growth, and we mature mentally, with the information that we learn, and we grow wise, so we're always kind of evolving and everything. So it's not to say that everybody's going to start off on the green. You know what I mean? So that's a good point. We're just striving to stay in the green. Some of us, maybe 20 years ago, I was on the red all day, every day, maybe, but you grow, and you learn. When you know better, you do better. I love that saying. When you know better, you do better. That's it. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen here. And just let me know when you all can see it. Can y'all see that? Anyone?
Yes, Misha is shown.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, okay. So what I'm showing here, this is just I just Googled the words UFO in hieroglyphics. All right, and this is the search results that come up from here. And I'm showing this because, as Antoine mentioned, that there's a lack of methods, and there's a lack of checking. There's a lack of rigor in when people do research or searching and things like that. All right. So if I were to type in, and as I did, UFOs and hieroglyphs, these are the results I get. And I'm not going to click on all of them, but if you do the same thing, you can click on various different ones, and you'll see that there's a common theme to all of these different sites that present this information. And these sites, now we have to remember, the internet, anybody can get a domain name and anyone on a website. That's part of our liberties, our freedom of speech and freedoms, as long as you pay for your hosting and domain name. And they have services where you don't even have to pay for it. They have free websites that you can do and get. But if you click on any of these, you'll find there's a common theme with, those who are presenting this information, these as if they are UFOs or aliens and things like that. And there are a lot of, I guess they call them New Age ufologists or ufologists, different websites that contain those kinds of things. And if you look at those websites, you'll see the complete lack of any type of methodology, research methods, no confirmations, no verifications, no attempts at falsifying the information. And these are standards within the scientific community, utilizing the scientific method. All right, so this is why it gets the name, as like the first slide that Antoine, that you showed, pseudoship, because pseudoscience is presenting information as though it is science, but it didn't go through the rigor of the scientific method. Now I'm paraphrasing the definition, a complete lack of any type of rigor, any type of attempts at falsifying, checking, make sure that you're right, make sure that, these are not chances, lookalikes, opinions, uninformed opinions, so on and so forth. All right. So I just wanted to kind of show that, but I click on a few of them. So like this one here, you can see it. This website is a picture of they're trying to say that it's a picture of like a Apache helicopter, a hovercraft that was used in the first Star Wars movie, or one of these. This one up here, or this one is like the spacecraft that was used in the cartoon Jetsons. And I mean, you'll hear and see all these different kinds of stories. All right, let me go to another one. Like this one here. This one, you see the arrow. They're pointing to this glyph, and it's trying to say it looks like a flying saucer. I don't even know what they're saying is hanging from it. I guess they're saying that these are light beams. They're trying to abduct people. So this is like a scene of abduction. So let's see what else. Okay, we have this one here. That's being. I'll show this one. This one looks a little better. This one that the claim is that this is a gray, extraterrestrial gray, and you see his head, the lips here, the eyes, the big eyes that people are describing. So you have those, and then you have these here, which are just completely made up. All right, these are just photoshopped gimmicks, and fakes. So here you have, the claim that aliens and their spaceships are inside the glyphs and things like that. What else? Let me quickly go. See, there's another one. Oh, something like this here, as if this was really found somewhere in Egypt today, or was excavated or something like that. So you'll see these things. Now I want to say this. Now, not all of these pictures are being claimed to be real or authentic. So, for example, this may very well have been made as a Halloween prop or something. But what happens is people will grab this kind of stuff off the internet and then run with it. So I want to definitely make that distinction. So sometimes people who make these things don't have the intention on trying to pass it off as real. But then you have other people who will grab it and say that these things are real. Okay, so one more. So yeah, something like this, and this is from, I guess, iStock photos or whatever. But yeah, see, these are things people just make up, for whatever reason, and everybody has, creative freedom to do what they want. When people grab it and try to advance it as though it's scientific or it's accurate, that's when it becomes an issue. And I'm just scrolling down. Oh, let's look at this one real quick. Because I actually seen this one posted on Facebook before. Yeah, somebody posted this and said that this here is a spacecraft, and it's beaming down lights, or somebody's trying to block it and fight it and shooting rays at it to try to get it away, whatever the case is. But that is completely false, because all this is this picture is flipped upside down. I can't do it right here because it's on right here, looking in Google. But if you would have flipped this picture 180 back upright, you will see that this is the head of Het Heru. This is a bovine head representative of Het Heru, and with the crown, the queen crown, or even the the what you call it, the I forgot what it's even called, but it's the archway here for the temples. So, you know, I don't know if they have it right side up. No. But yeah, I can't flip it while I was looking at it. But anyway, I just want to kind of show. And here we go, right here. Let's let's look at this one. See, now whoever did this and made this may not have had any intention on portraying this as being real. But these things are found on websites who do try to portray these things as being real. All right, and I'm looking at this one. So it's little things like that that's going on. So,
Who would believe that? I mean,
well, that's the thing. There's people, yeah, there's people that will definitely believe it, and and it's just unfortunate. But I mean, it's nice, and this looks nice. I mean, I actually like this. If I saw this in the store, I would probably get it. Um, as you know, uh, um, household little little item. But the problem, like I said, the problem comes when this is being passed off as though this is real, or you know, and beyond that. So anyway, I just want to kind of show some examples. Let's see what I had up here. Okay, here's one too. Um, this is a medallion, and this was presented recently as something that was authentic. I don't know if you can see it very good. Let me see if I could. Oh, okay, it doesn't get it too much bigger than that. But yeah, this was presented as being real or authentic. Now it's real, obviously, because it's an actual item. Um, so we see it's an item, but it's not authentic. It's something that somebody made, in modern times. But things like this are being passed off as real. Let's see if this was. Oh, that's not a bigger one. I'm just trying to see if I see a big one. Well, anyway, you can see this are the same picture, same thing. It's pictures, different pictures of the same thing. All right. And what else? Okay, that was that one. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share those to emphasize that just because it's on the internet doesn't make it true. And I remember there's a commercial. I forgot what product it is or whatever, but I remember seeing a commercial where they actually use that saying. The whole commercial is like a parody about people believing things simply because it's on the internet. And I don't know, any of you all familiar with that commercial? No? Yeah, you know. Well, there's a commercial out there. I don't know. Maybe I'll find it. But yeah, we have to be careful. We have to apply um, methods of discernment. We have to know when something is true or false. So we use tools. Okay, the scientific method is the best tool to use for that. That's why it exists. This is why scientists of all kinds of disciplines utilize the scientific methods that are appropriate to that discipline. So obviously you can't use the same tools, the exact same set of tools for every single discipline, scientific discipline, but the underlying method, the methodology, the steps and things like that are the same. Okay. All right. So anybody else have any comments before I share my screen? Let me share the other one. Okay. Boy, I tell you, if silence could damage somebody, boy, I'd be hurting.
I'm just sitting here just wondering. Like, I guess the silence is just. I'm like, it's just crazy. Who's going to believe this kind of stuff? Just flabbergasted. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So, now while I'm sharing, I can't see the chat or anything like that. But if anybody had any other comments, I can't keep my eyes on that. But all right. So let me share. Okay. So this is the thing. Now, also let me say this. The entire association of aliens with ancient Egypt is not done by accident. Okay, this is not some random haphazard thing that we think that some people who are pretty much kind of that most people say are off a little off, are believing in. So we have to put a couple of things in proper perspective. All right, we have to go back to um, the birth of Egyptology, even before that. But we can kind of home in on the birth of Egyptology. Basically, Napoleon is giving credit for giving birth to Egyptology. Basically, the French occupation of Egypt, and then the first formulation of an institution in Egypt. At the time, this is what at the turn of the 19th century. So we have to remember that in that climate and afterwards, there is there's a whole racial uh, environment going on, racial bias. I mean, everything. The view of African people by European people was so bad, and it was necessary for them to make it so bad because they had to have some kind of justification for the enslavement and the treatment of these African people. So, upon the discovery of all these different things in Egypt, and then the interest of Europeans' monetary gains of gathering the treasures and different things, even before it became a actual scientific discipline, like before it became more structured, it was basically grave robbing, land grabbing, grave robbing, and everybody was all out for the spoils. Um, but because the intelligence people started to look at all these different artifacts and everything and start to study and wanted to have a different curiosity about it, the greatness of Egypt showed its face. I mean, it was so obvious it showed its face. So we have to look at it that here we are in Egypt. Egypt is is in Africa. Okay, the enslavements and the views of Africans are going on. Okay, and so it would be hard to attribute this such great civilization where you had these big pyramids, the Sphinx, all the different temples, and all the different things that was being found and studied and things like that. It would be really, really hard to attribute that to the same Africans that they had this distasteful view of. So it was in their best interest to keep it separate. So therefore, that gave birth to Egypt not being an African civilization. This is why even today, some people actually believe that Egypt is not even in Africa. They say they create this region called the Middle East, and it's a region. It's not a continent or anything. It's just a region. It's just an imaginary region of geography that they call the Middle East, and they include Egypt in there to have that psychological effect of taking it out of Africa. Somebody has something to say?
I was just gonna say that I mean, anybody that got common sense, if you look at a map, you will know that it's in Africa. But the Middle East, this geographical location, the Middle East, it was coined in 1905.
Okay. Well, so um, yeah, so that is speaks to what I'm saying. So this region of Middle East or whatever, they're putting Kemet in there. And then therefore, if you look at the early Egyptological literature, they talk about the ancient Egyptians as though they existed by way of migration from either West Asia or even Europe. Okay, and even the study of Egypt was done based on a Middle East or Levant viewpoint by way of the Abrahamic traditions in terms of the influence of the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, and even in the Semitic lens went to languages and things like that. So all of this gives birth, culminating all around that time. So I say all that to say, to fast forward, that over time, as Egypt becomes more and more studied and more data and information comes out and is available to the public because times have changed. you know, from back then till now, as far as slavery, as far as just access to information, things like that, the whole spectrum. So now it's harder, it's real hard to separate Egypt from Africa now. It's real hard to say Egypt, the Egyptians themselves were from Europe. So no one's going to buy that. No one's going to believe that kind of stuff anymore. But there's still an undertone there to keep Egypt separated from the rest of Black Africa and the greatness. Okay, so I say that to say that the entire alien extraterrestrial movement, when it comes to Egypt, is nothing more than a modern way to discredit Black Africans' great civilization and contributing so much to the world. So instead of giving credit to Black Africans, they're like, nope, it has to be aliens that built these pyramids. It has to be aliens that built that Sphinx. You see what I'm saying? So that's the undertone that's going on with movements, and you know, we shouldn't tolerate that at all, because one is, I mean, for the most important part, it's just not true. All right. So I just want to kind of put that there, because this is what's going on. So anybody buying into that is actually being conditioned by this undertone, this current that's going on, this movement, this continued up-to-date movement. Like, for example, if calling the Egyptians Europeans was done, you know, 100, 200 years ago, and that's version 1, then this UFO alien stuff is, you know, version 2. You know what I'm saying? Like how software gets updated all the time. This, you know, everybody's downloading the latest app. So the latest app is to say, hey, aliens made all these things. Aliens did this. Aliens did that. You know? So I just want to kind of put that out there. But all right, so I want to read through these articles now. These 3 articles, I'm gonna share 3 articles. These 3 articles, I wrote them about 4 years ago, and actually posted it. I actually wrote them and did post on Facebook first, you know, and then by the time that I had this website, I put them on the website. So these are so this is not anything new, you know, and the reason why I did these articles, these 3 articles that I'm going to share, is for this very reason, because I used to get in conversations about this with people, and I found myself repeating myself all the time, you know, saying the same thing over and over and over again. So I said, all right, well, let me just, you know, document a little blog or article. That way I don't have to keep repeating myself. I could just refer people to the links. Okay, so that's why I initially did the articles. So for that reason, this is why I'm sharing it. So, you know, because this kind of information peeks his head every now and then. All right. So again, if anybody has anything to chime in, feel free to stop me. But I'm going to just read it. Now I don't know if it's coming out big enough. Can that be seen? Can y'all see on YouTube? Is that big enough?
To you.
It is. Okay. Let me see if I could increase the size.
Enter a button you can push for quality, or something that you can push to make sure the quality is clear.
Yeah. For those who are watching live, if you click on the cogwheel of the actual video, YouTube video, you can change your settings to 480 or 720. Okay, and I just increased the size so people can read along with me, because I'm just going to read it. And that's the purpose of me having an article. But, you know, we can discuss it as we go along. So this article is called Picture of an Alien on the Walls of Ancient Egypt Explained. All right. There are many internet websites that make claims that are quite extraordinary. This particular article addresses the claim that there are pictures of aliens on the walls of temples and tombs in ancient Egypt. So let's examine one such popular claim. All right, probably the most famous and most referred to pictures and website comes from this website. So I'm not even sure if that website is still active now, but you know, you all can see the link. And this is the content from that website. Okay, it says cosmic conspiracies were recently searching the web for pictures of ancient Egypt for a forthcoming T-shirt project for the site. Whilst we were visiting various Egyptology sites, we came across this picture that was taken inside the tomb of Ptah Hotep at Saqqara, Egypt, which dates back to the 5th dynasty. This picture shows servants offering food to the Egyptian sage and philosopher Ptahhotep. Ptahhotep, oh, who sat at the table to the left of this part of the picture. All right, they're talking about, he's on the left-hand side that you can't see. Ptahhotep served during the reign of Izizi as a sage. His maxims are in the papyrus, the Pris Papyrus, which are in the Lavore. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that. Izizi was the 8th king of the 5th dynasty and ruled approximately from 2388 until 2356 BC. All right, so this is a picture from their website, and notice the arrows pointing here. And then they continue on to say, we were flabbergasted, to say the least, when we took a closer look at this image and could make out an alien gray in the bottom of the picture. Does this prove that the building and placements of the pyramids were aided by alien intelligence? They put the question out there. That's another picture from the website. We have only built 3 images of this picture that you see here and have learned that this particular wall mural does not appear in any official guidebooks. I wonder why. I have found out, however, that the picture showing this same mural is in an old book called The Shadows of the Pyramids, Egypt During the Old Kingdom. The implications of the discovery of this ancient stone picture that includes the alien are obviously huge and could be one of the most important clues to alien intervention into our ancient history ever made. And here's another picture. And you know, looking at this picture, because we're talking about aliens, it does look like an alien. All right, your mind will do that. So they continue to say, here's an enlargement of the gray. So here's the enlargement of the gray. Now they're calling it a gray. This picture could explain why the Egyptians appeared to be so technically advanced and how they were able to build the pyramids with such precision. For instance, the coffin in the Great Pyramid was cut so accurately that we couldn't even recreate a similar coffin out of rock today, even with our laser technology. And here's another picture in it being blown up. So this is the wall, and here's the that little part being blown up. Okay, so that's what the website says. All right, so now coming back to what I'm saying. This is a blow up of the first picture in this album that they use to promote misinformation. This website claims it made a huge discovery while searching for a t-shirt design scanning the internet. This alone, and this speaks to what the brother Antoine mentioned first, this alone accounts for the methodology and the lack of scrutiny that went into this discovery. Because if you notice, all they did was just look at it and be like, oh man, it looks like an alien, and oh, that's what it is. It looks like it, that must be, you know. So this website uses poor quality pictures, which are blurry and makes it difficult to distinguish details. In the enlarged picture, the figure identified as alien gray is of an ambiguous shape, but it does look like there might be eyes and perhaps a frowning mouth and possibility arms folded upon the chest. If you see it right here, that look like a mouth, that look like eyes, and you look like the head right here. But this is a subjective interpretation, much as one might describe the shape of an ink blot, and is helped along by the suggestion of the authors. You know, by ink blot, you know, anybody's familiar with you getting a psychological exam, or you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they ask you, what do you see? And they show you a bunch of ink blots, and they ask you, what do you see? You got to describe what first comes to your mind, and so on and so forth. We do it all day as children when we look at the sky and we see these shapes of clouds, and we say, oh, that looks like a lion, or that looks like a mouse. The site informs us that the picture shows servants offering food to Ptahhotep, the owner of the tomb in which the relief is found. One might ask, what would an alien be doing among a collection of food offerings? Okay, that's first. It is also notable that if the figure is indeed an alien, it is shown from a frontal view, face on, quite unlike the other figure in the scene, and indeed quite unlike Egyptian artistic conventions in general, with the exception of Het Heru and Bes. Bes, a lot of people know it as the dwarf deity, and Het Heru, the frontal face of Het Heru that I showed earlier, actually. Um, those are known to be kind of front on. Everything else is pretty in profile, pretty much in profile, um, in general. So while the figure in the picture may bear some similarity to what what we think today as extraterrestrial beings looking like, an open mind would reserve judgment until better quality photographs could be examined, as photographic evidence appears to be the single basis of this website's theory. As it turns out, those authors hope that you do not have the resources to try to find them, and as a further discouragement, they cite an out-of-print book called In the Shadows of the Pyramids. Neither the author nor the date is cited. Fortunately, it is not hard to find information about a book from its title, and one doesn't have to go into too much trouble to find that the author is Jaromir Malik, and that the book was first published in 1986. The author of the website claims to have only been able to find 3 images of this picture that you see here, and this is a quote, and have learned that this particular wall mural does not appear in any official guidebooks. And then they say, I wonder why. See, they add the little theatrics on the end. I wonder why. That's the seed of conspiracy. So the implication is that there's some conspiracy trying to suppress the absolutely huge implication of this tomb relief, because remember, that's their language. It's absolutely huge. Is it such a secret? A look in any general tourist guidebook to Egypt reveals that the double mastaba of Akhti-Hotep and Ptah-Hotep is open to visitors, and photographs may be made if a flash is not used. If the relief is a secret, it doesn't seem to be a very well kept one. Indeed, luckily for the casual visitor to Egypt, Bonecci's All of Egypt, a glossary tourist photo paperback hawked by vendors at popular sites. Now, Brother Antoine, you probably came across this in your recent tour, maybe. But it's a paperback that's hawked by vendors at popular sites. Has a picture of this very relief on page 45. Okay, and this is the relief that's on page 45. All right, so better, it's a clear picture. They, in quotes, say the object slightly left of the center is an alien with 2 big black eyes. So what is this right here? This object is actually a water lily. All right, the water lily, I'm just going to describe it. The water lily here, if you can see my cursor, this is the open water lily itself, and these are 2 buds, unopened plants, lilies. They're not open yet, and it's sitting inside of a container. And you can see this big container right here. This looks like a vase or vase right here that I'm outlining. So these are sitting inside. Oh, go ahead.
You sure that's not an alien with a robe on, a choir robe on?
He said choir robe. Oh boy. So, but it's a water lily. And see, the thing is that even the owners of that website and what they were saying, they did recognize that this is a part of an offering scene. There's food involved. There's offerings, and water lilies were quite often seen and used as part of offerings. And here you see a bird in the hands of this particular person. You see some other items, and that's cut off here, but you see a bird, you see some other items, you see some breads and things like that. So you're seeing a bunch of food here. Okay, so an alien in this sense would be out of place just on some basic surface logic. All right, but I just wanted to kind of describe that. So that's a water lily. Now, seen more clearly, the little alien gray takes on a quite different perspective. The figure looks much more alien-like in the fuzzy picture, but here it looks rather like something else altogether. But what is it? So here's a close-up of it. What before looked like a mouth, now we can see is a container, and the head doesn't look like a head at all, but it's a water lily, or most people know as a lotus, and it's a blossom, lotus blossom. The eyes here no longer resemble eyes, but what are they? Recall that the context in which this relief is found is that of an offering scene. This is an offering of a lotus. The peculiar figure pictured is the image of a lotus blossom with a bud on each side of it. So these are two buds on it, in a vase or a jar as an offering. Is it possible to confirm this? The answer is absolutely yes. In another relief in the same tomb depicts a man gathering lotus blossoms as he placed them in a basket. So you can see this cropped here. This is a lotus, and here's the whole stem here. Now here you don't see the stem because it's sitting inside the vase. But it's the same configuration. Here's the lotus plant, the flower, and you can see if this plant was not opened, it would look just like these buds. So all three of these are the same. It's just that this middle one is budded open. It's open. And the two on the sides are unopened. So they look like buds. That's it. So clearly we may now say that what looked like eyes were in reality flower buds, and what in a very poor photograph looked something like an alien grade looks exactly like that which it was meant to represent, which is an offering of a lotus blossom. And here's a picture of the full wall. So here is Ptah-hotep that the other picture was cropped out, and here is the figure right here, real small. And you'll see all of this stuff right here is food offerings, all different items, various different items that are being offered here. Okay, and if anyone knows, matter of fact, this links into what we started off with, what we call the Hotep Dinasut. Okay, in a lot of these different tombs, there's usually a section that will have an offering where the deceased person and owner of the tomb will be seated at an offering table, and this is no different. So this is from the 5th dynasty.
Yeah, you see it a lot on a lot of stelas and stuff like that, the offering table and all that.
Exactly.
They should be familiar already.
That's that picture from Saqqara too, right across from Teddy's pyramid. But them dudes they all got afros too in that pic.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, you were just there. So when you were there, did you see this particular tomb?
This is it's a like you said, it's Teddy Mastaba.
Right.
Yeah, so we went in there. Yep, I have pictures in there as well. It's nice.
All right, so yeah, so maybe we can share those at another time. All right. So anyway, the last picture here on this article is here's a picture of the outside of it, and you can see the words Ptah-hotep. Right here you have the P, T, capital H, and then Hotep, the Hotep offering, and then the T and the P. So we have Ptah-hotep. All right, and we can see the word Imahu, which means the revered one. This word right here is the same word that we used in the Hotep Dinasut earlier by Sonet Tonica, when she said Imaku Aku Makeru, and Maku would be the revered ones, the venerated ones. And so this is describing Ptah-hotep as the person, as one who is venerated. So the venerated one, Ptah-hotep. So this is his name on the entrance, somewhere around the entrance of the mastaba. All right. So anyway, that's that article, and I hope that that's clear. And I do want to say this, that this picture actually does look like what we would call a gray. But this lets us know that we cannot use the "it looks like" method. There's no such science. That's totally unscientific. We can't look at something and then just make judgments and come to conclusions and then try to teach people based on this stuff. All right. So I just want to kind of emphasize that it does look like an alien. We can't deny looking like this. Like, okay, yeah, it looked like an alien. Look like somebody with a big eye right here looking over his shoulders or something. I mean, we can make up anything. But this is the purpose of the scientific method and more rigor into your studies and research, is that you start to examine things, and we find out that no, it's a lotus plant, and it's an open lotus flower with two buds on the side, sitting inside of a vase that is appropriately placed at an offering scene. All right, there's nothing extraordinary about this whatsoever. All right, but anyway, so that's one article, and like I said, I can't see the YouTube chat, but I don't know if anybody had any comments about that or questions. Maybe somebody can check that out for me, please. And while that happens, let's go on to the next one. Any of y'all have comments about it?
Not really.
No, that's pretty cut and dry. They killing me in the chat though. They funny.
Yeah, and you see, we can't even say it's aliens because most of us have never even encountered an alien for that matter, so we can't even tell how they look like. You know.
Well,
Right.
you know the power of Hollywood and the movies and things, especially with that movie E.T. I grew up, E.T. was like the big thing. E.T. Phone Home. That was my first encounter. That was my first encounter. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep.
With that music, what was that little tune?
No, 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 no.
Yeah, I could not get that out of my head for like 5 years. I think that like burned into my psyche. You know what I mean? Like I went through elementary school with that ringing in my head. No, no. I can't even, man. I don't even want to do it.
Hey, but it's real good that we going over this right now, especially with in the times right now when everything is like real loose. A lot of people are so-called waking up in the so-called social community, but the conscious community are coming into all this information, and a lot of this information is very delicate. So if you got an open mind and you're not really building with someone, or you just freelance and jumping from topic to topic and not really taking your time, you can really get lost in this stuff and be mixing information.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because I call it the microwave generation, and we're part of it. So we're up in a microwave generation, and I use that as a metaphor for speed because we want everything fast and quick, and we've been conditioned to be this way, like in all areas of life, from and we could see how it slowly develops into this, as far as the literal microwave. It started off with the TV dinners. Like I don't know if people remember that when the TV dinners first came out, and everybody jumped on that because here you have a TV dinner, you can make a whole meal, pop it in the oven, and 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 the results is that you have a whole meal. You don't have to stove and cook potatoes and let them sit for 20 minutes. Cook the rice next, and then cook this and cook that. Bam! You can put everything in a platter and stick it in the oven, and whoop, instant TV dinner. And they call them TV dinners because they want, you watch TV, you can sit on your lap, make a tray, and eat. And it went from there to the microwave. And now it's like everything is in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You put your microwave on high, set it for 3.5 minutes, and ding, everything is done. So in all areas of, and then you have fast food restaurants, and then you have the drive-through. Now people eat at red lights. Like, you know what I mean? People are eating in between red lights now. So we've been conditioned. Then you got email. First we went from rotary phones where you had to spin that wheel. And I know I'm telling my age, but you had to spin the wheel, and you just hope that whoever you're dialing didn't have those high numbers. Like imagine somebody with a number 998 7699. Oh, that would just kill you because you be about 10 minutes just to dial that number because you got to roll it around. But we went from there to the push button phone, the touch tone phones, and then to the pagers. We still had to use we call it the phone booth to call people back, and then it went to cell phones, and then we get emails. And that's text messages. So everybody has access to everything real fast. We don't have to go to the library anymore. Now we got Wikipedia. We got all these different online services. So everything is sped up and fast contributes to all of this. All this stuff is not now I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but it is plain as day to see the slow development of our conditioning. I'm not saying somebody's sitting in the sky pulling strings, but this conditioning is real. It flows in chronological order. But anyway, let me read through this one. So this one is entitled "The Aliens and Spacecrafts in an Ancient Egyptian Temple Explained." All right, so this one deals with that other picture we saw about the Star Wars hovercraft, the George Jetson spaceship, and the Apache helicopter of the military. You know, Egypt, boy, man, Egypt was doing it. You know what I mean? So, all right, I'm just gonna read this one. So it says, according to many ufologists, within the temple of Seti I in Abydos, there exist glyphs which depict. Now this one is famous. All right, so I'm sure everybody who's watching this, who's gonna watch this on the archives, they've seen this before. Pretty much, I'm telling you. Okay, so it says there exist glyphs which depict highly developed crafts, specifically a helicopter, a submarine, and some form of flying saucer and a jet plane. Okay, now this is the promotion claims of by different people. So what do these hieroglyphs really represent? The glyphs are a result of both erosion of the stone surface, which is evident elsewhere inside the temple. Let me pause right here. Brother Antoine, were you able to go inside this temple?
No, we didn't go in this temple, but y'all were just telling the audience this glyph is you'll see this on History Channel and BBC. But this glyph right here is a moneymaker for like the tourist. You know what I'm saying? So what they'll say is the tourist. Now Ashra, he didn't take us to see this glyph at all, but he discussed it. And he's aware of your article too. So he broke it down based on the article. But the other tourists that work there, on a normal basis, they use this as a moneymaker to take, the Europeans and the Chinese people that come as tourists. If they want to go see the alien glyphs or the spaceship glyphs, they take them to this to see this scene right here.
And they see, and
so
I can imagine because this would be a moneymaker. It's like, oh, have y'all seen it on the History Channel? All right, come with me. I'll show you. You know what I mean? So it's a tourist attraction. And everyone knows that part of the income of Egypt itself is tourism. You know what I mean? So it's in their best interest to keep the hype going. Obviously, all right. So let's just read further. So the glyphs are a result of erosion of the stone artifacts and the process of filling in and recarving the stone to replace some of the original hieroglyphics. The technical term for such a surface has been written for such a surface that has been written on more than once is called a palimpsest. All right, that's a key term. So please remember that. Those who be watching the archives, look it up. This is what it's called, a palimpsest. The usurping and modifying of inscriptions was common in ancient Egypt throughout its entire history. Okay. And you can find that in just about any book that talks about the history of Egypt, where one king will reuse the surface of of one of his or her predecessors. All right, and this is the reason why certain kings in particular, I believe Ramses II, and Antoine, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Ramses II carved incised glyphs really, really deep, where you can almost stick like your whole hand inside the glyph. Is that Ramses II, Antoine, or who was that?
Yes, accurate. Yep, accurate.
Okay. Correct. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. The glyphs is. I mean, you can literally put your hand inside the glyphs, and
Right. So the point I'm making is that some kings, they were aware of this practice, so they were like, okay, well, hey, if somebody's gonna reuse my stuff, I'm gonna make it real hard for them. So they commissioned the scribes and the artisans to actually carve really, really, really deep in the surface. And I don't have any pictures at this moment, but we could probably pull some up. But anyway, so to continue, the glyphs here were modified at least once in antiquity and perhaps twice. Some of the filling has fallen out of places where the older and newer inscriptions overlap, and the result is a unique and odd looking. So this is what we're looking at here, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, because I could just be saying this, and don't take my word for it. So let's give a little bit of a brief history. So the city of Abydos boasts a number of temples, and the most significant of which was built by Seti I, whose throne name was called Min Ma'at Ra. You can actually see this inside the cartouche here, Min Ma'at Ra, and this is Seti I himself. All right, just to show you a quick picture of him. So he's of the 19th dynasty, approximately 1290 to 1279 BC. His temple is the largest of the Abydos temples, built of limestone and sandstone blocks to an L-shaped plan. It has 7 sanctuaries. The temple was not completed by the time of Seti's death and was finished by his son, Ramses II. Here's a picture of Seti I. All right, so here's a picture of him. And as I said, you can see his name inside the cartouche over here and right here. So his throne name is, right here you see Neb Tawi, and then Min Ma'at Ra. And then over here you see the same thing, Min Ma'at Ra. And then his family name, which is the name we know him by, is in here, which you see Seti Merin Ptah. All right, that's his name, Seti Merin Ptah, but everybody just simply says Seti. And
beloved of Ptah, right?
Yes, yep, exactly. The beloved of Ptah. Yep. And he's called Seti I because there's another Seti later on after him that became Seti II. Okay.
You just read that name off of there, right?
Yeah. I know you. Yeah, if the glyphs haven't been translated, then what am I reading? Goodness. So, all right. But let me continue. So, Seti's son, Ramses II, hastily completed and decorated several sections of the temple, and in some instances, Ramses II placed decorations over those of his father. The picture that is believed to be of space and aircraft is one such redecorated palimpsest, a redecoration or palimpsest. The text is part of a titulary, probably pronouncing that wrong, it's titulary, which means title, of Ramses II, which replaced the royal titulary of Seti I that was originally carved into the stone. From the later half of the 5th dynasty on, the royal titulary consisted of 5 titles, or renwer, which means great names. These names express the power, might, and overall mission statement of the king. Oftentimes, these 5 titles were grouped as a long royal titulary or titulary in temples. There was an apparent change in the scale of glyphs, which also makes it difficult to discern. But here's a picture of a wider view. So here's a wider view of the full, with more of the glyphs, not just that one section that everybody shows. Here's more of them.
I'm trying to see which names they combine together.
Okay, good. And we're about to get into that. Exactly. So the glyphs in context. So this is more of the entire scene. And I hope everybody on YouTube can see this. But you know, yeah. And if anybody wants these pictures to have a nice, clearer, bigger shot, you know, just join our Facebook group, the Seshew mdw-ntr Facebook group. I'll post them there, or inbox me, or go to the website mdw-ntr.com and you can actually see it and blow it up for yourself. All right, so just to continue, let us examine the original glyphs under Seti I with the recarved glyphs under Ramses II. So we start with the so-called helicopter. The original glyph was the sign of a bow, and this code in here within parentheses is the Gardner code. So this is T10A, okay, which is used as part of the word pasejet or pasejtiu, which are words dealing with troops, bowmen, and also a word for the 9 bows. A lot of people will be familiar with the people of south of Kemet being called the 9 bows. All right, the different 9 quote-unquote Nubian communities were known as the 9 bows, which is why you also see 9 individual short vertical strokes, which is Gardner code Z1, and you see these 9 strokes: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We also see a raised bread loaf, which is X1 in Gardner code, which is right here, which represents the consonant T. So this is what it looks like. This is the word Pasejet. We have the bow, the 9 strokes, and the raised bread loaf, and we can clearly see that here. Now it may not be clear because people's minds are trained to look at this as a helicopter, but now you'll be able to see that this is a bow, and I'm going to show you another picture in a second. So this is what the word looks like, and this is the picture as it is, and here it is overlaid. So you can see the bow, how it will overlay. You see the 9 strokes, and then the bread loaf. This is the word Pasejet. All right, and it means 9. Now moving on. This section was recarved, and the T bow was replaced with the D40, which is the forearm. And remember, these codes are Gardner codes. The forearm holding a stick, and then also a G45, which is a forearm. I'm sorry, which is a forearm with the quail chick. That combination of a sign is G45. And then we have an I9, which is a horned viper, which is here. You can see it right here. And then Z7 swirl, which is used in the word waf, which means to crush, to subdue, or to bind, as in conquer in battle. So if you're conquering somebody, that's the kind of word that you would use. We also see 3 glyphs, which are N25, which are sandy hill, used to denote foreign countries, and it's called the cassette. And this is the word when we say Hyksos. A lot of people, especially the Hebrew Israelite community, will be familiar with the Hyksos or the Hikakasut. This word cassette is that same word. It means foreigners or foreign lands, foreign country. All right. So here we have the word wafa'u, the W-A, wafa, the F, which is the horned viper, and the U, wafa'u, which means to conquer of subdue. Here is the picture as it is, and here is it overlaid. So now we can see the arm with the stick in it. We see the quail chick with the arm. We see the hills. Now I'm gonna go back up, and you can see this. You can see the quail chick right there. You can see the arm. You can see the 3 hills right here. The 3 sets of 3 hills, I should say. And you can see that swirl right here. You can see a little bit of that swirl right there, next, right up under the horned viper. All right, so let's continue. Moving to the next section towards the right, we will see what was originally the word der, which means to expel, to drive out, which uses the glyphs D46, which is the hand, D21, which is the mouth, and D40, which again is the hand with the stick in it. Now, mind you, there was a D40 up here, right here. And this word is der. It means to expel, to drive out. So where is it in here? Now we can see it. So we can see the hand right here. We can see it right there on the original. We can see the mouth right there. There's the mouth, which is giving you that kind of overall look of a spaceship. And then we see the arm with the stick in it, and we see it very big right here. And we can see the stick coming up right there. All right, so that means to expel. So now this is during the time of Seti I, okay? So now let's look at what was put over top of that particular section for Ramses II. All right. So this section was redone and changed by Ramses II to the following glyphs. So now we have J15, what most people may recognize as AA15, which is this glyph here, which stands for the consonant M. Then we have D36, which is an arm, stands for the consonant A. Then we have V31, which is a basket with a handle. This represents the consonant K. And then we have, which all of this stands for the word Mak. Mak. And then to continue, we see the word, and the word Mak, by the way, means protector or defender. Protector or defender. And just under it, we have the burnt charcoal, raised bread loaf, and then we have this, what we nicknamed the X-Men buckle, but we know it's not. It has an X with it's a circle with an X in it to represent a city or a town. And this is the word Kemet. All right. a lot of people may not recognize this as Kemet because it's missing the owl. But the owl is not here for this particular in this particular case, but it represents the word Kemet. This glyph by itself is K and M together. So Kemet. So it's basically saying defend or protect Kemet. Defender or protector of Kemet. All right. So where do we see these? We can see them overlaid. So we can see how the first glyph is here. The arm is right there. That's what's giving you this part. We see this this basket with handle, which is giving you this little notch right here. Then we see Kemet, biggest day. We see the Kemet. We see the raised bread loaf, and then we see this circle, but obviously it was carved into, and we see that right here, Kemet. Now, before we're moving on to the next section, the previous glyphs of the bow and hand and mouth, arm, and stick shown above may be hard to accept for some. Fortunately, within this same temple in Abydos, on an adjacent walls, we find the same glyphs. So for those people who were doubting, let me go back up, this right here, of being a bow, and then you have the 9 strokes, and then the raised bread loaf, that T. Here's an unaltered spot within the same temple, and you can see the exact same things. The bow, the 9 strokes. Now this stroke right here is damaged. You can see this long damaged line right there, but you can see it was 1, 2, 3 strokes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those 9 raised bread loaf, Pasejet. And even the word dur again, the hand, the mouth, and then the arm with the stick in there. So let's go back and you'll see that right here. D, R, and then the arm, dur, which means to expel. All right. So here's an unaltered one, here within the same temple. All right. So now moving on to the next section, towards the right. So we're moving on more to the right. So under the rulership of Ramses II, we can see the glyphs, the G16, which is the vulture, and the cobra on 2 baskets. This represents the 2 ladies, or Nebti, as most people will know. This will represent Nekhibet and Wajet, sitting on top of 2 baskets, known as the 2 ladies. All right. And we can see that here. All right. Here's the picture as is. You can see the 2 baskets right there. And it's pretty damaged right here because on this one it chipped away pretty bad. But you can see the 2 baskets, and you can see the beginnings of the cobra. And then you can see the outline right here of the vulture. See the back right there. And there you have it, overlaid. So here are all the glyphs put together as it was in Seti I time. And then under is his son's Ramses II reconstruction. So here are the 2. Here's what it would have looked like during Seti I's time. Pasejet dur together like that. And then Ramses' time will be Wafa'u Mekhemet. All right. And actually it would be the other way around because we're reading from right to left. So it'd be dur Pasejet. And this one would be Mekhemet Wafa'u. All right. So we're going from this way to over here. But this is how it will look. So this is in the same exact spot, but these are 2 different kings writing on the same surface. They don't have pencil erasers or anything like that. So here they are sitting on top of each other, kind of blended together so we can see how it looks. And you can see how this starts to begin to look like a helicopter. You can see how this one starts to look like a spaceship and the whole thing. So here it is blended sitting on top. And you can see that. Now here is a better picture where you can see, a fuller aspect of the wall here. You see the cartouche here. You see the Nisud Bidi. You see a big B right here. You see the sedge plant right here. These are common glyphs for common titles of kings. So this entire ceiling here is the full titulary of both of these kings. Seti I at first. Okay. And here's another picture of it. Now, let's just deal with the cartouche for a second. the cartouche. Now this is twice. All right, the cartouche itself was not recarved, but what was inside of it was. So the first name we see here, this will be the throne name. We can clearly see the throne name of Seti the First is Min Ma'at Ra. We can see the Min, we see Ma'at right here, and we see the circle for Ra. That's Seti the First throne name. Then on top of that, we have Ramses the Second throne name, Wusser Ma'at Ra Setepen Ra. And we can see the Wusser staff, or what do you call it? Scepter, Ma'at, right here. We see Setep, we see that right here. I don't know if you all can see my cursor and everything. Then we see the Ra, the circle over here. And then we see the water ripple right there. This is very clear for anybody who could read. It's almost as though, because we speak and write English, it's like you're looking at a piece of paper and you made a mistake and you erase it, and then you write over your own writing, but you didn't quite erase what was there before all the way. And you give it to somebody to read, they can read it. They understand that they could still see some stuff, but they understand what's going on. So anybody that can read the glyphs will clearly see that these are two kings' names within here. All right, so to kind of end this off, and Brother Damo, you can help me out here at the bottom. Here are the full titulary of Seti the First. By full titulary, I mean all 5 of his names that he was known by. All right, so so Damo, if you can see my screen and just read off and then give us the meanings of their names, of his name.
Read off of yours, of this Seti.
Oh, you gonna share yours? Okay, let me.
No. Leave it on yours. Leave it on yours.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I can go back and forth on mine.
This is Seti the First right here.
Okay. His Horus name.
Yep.
Ka Nakat Ka M Waset Sakintawi. Oh, yeah, you get the shorter version. Yeah, I went to my screen to read that. But you got Kanket Kamen Waset. But on here is the strong bull. On here I got the extended name. The strong bull who appeared in Thebes and sustains the 2 lands.
Okay.
His Nepti name, the Wehem Mesut Shechem Kepesh Der Pesajit. Nepti name is explaining renewing births, the strong armed one who has repelled the 9 bows.
Okay, hold up. Pause there. I'm gonna stop you right here. See, this Nebti name is critical to what we were just talking about. So we see Nebti, Wahem Mesut, Sekem Kapesh, Der Pesajit. And if I go back now, if people watching this video and the archives are watching now, just look at this. Now, if you were to flip it going from right to left instead of the way I have it here, and you can go back and see, where's the bigger picture? You can see right here what's going on. So that's his Nebti name, because remember, let me go where I have, yeah. This is why you see Nebti right here. So we have Nebti there, and then we have the continuation of the rest of what we read. So Nebti, the Nebti name, part of the Nebti name would be the 9 bows, which is what Brother Damo just read. I just want to kind of, now let's see, now just real quick, see this Wahem Mesut. Let's go up and see if we see that. Where's that full picture? Right here. If you were to look real hard, I don't think this is a good picture of it. Yeah, this is not a good picture. Let me see if I had another picture down here at the bottom. No. Okay, but yeah, I have other pictures where you see more of this. Actually, you see this column that's blocking our views right now. I have a bigger picture of the other part. And if you were to look at it, you would be able to see the Wahem Mesut as well. Okay, but obviously I can't point that out on here. Can't see that. Okay, I'm sorry, but go ahead and continue. We're still at the Golden Falcon name now. Did I lose you?
All right, I see you. Golden Falcon named the Wahem Cow Usur Pejet Tumat Tau Nebu. So Wahem Ho Wasir Pejet Tau Nebu.
All right.
What we got on that is the he who renews the crowns, he who subjugates the 9 bowls in all lands.
Okay. All right. So, and now these 3 right here would be his throne name, and these are the same. These are different variations of the same thing. So, depending on the scribe and their choice of aesthetics, they did it a little different. So, yeah, you give us the meaning of this. This one is Min Ma'at Ra, and what's the meaning for that one?
Eternal is the truth of Ra.
All right, and then last it would be his family name, and this is a name that we know him by.
Right, that's Seti. That's Seti Marin Ptah.
Yep, exactly. So
Seti
Sa-Ra.
beloved of Ptah.
We have Sa-Ra,
Yeah.
that he murdered in Ptah. All right, and you already said that, so Seti beloved of Ptah. So there you go. All right, so now the second king, which is his son, Ramses II. This is like, the famous Ramses. Ramses is the man. So yeah, if you can read his titulary as well. So if you give the translation, I'll just read it.
Okay.
So we have Heru Khaneket Meri Ra.
The strong bull, beloved of Ra.
Okay, so that's his Heru name. And then we have his Nepti names. We have Nepti, Mekhemet, Wafau Khasut, or Wakfasut, Khasut. And just real quick. Oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Tell us the meaning of that one.
Protector of Kemet who curbs foreign lands.
Okay. Now remember this Nepti again. So we have both Nepti names of both kings in the same place. Because remember, you should be familiar with this. With the word that I was saying, Kemet. Back up here. Let's see. We go back right here. Mek Kemet Wafau Khasut. So we have the protector of Kemet and Wafau, which is to repel or to, almost the same as Dur. This one means to, to drive out, to repel. This one is to conquer and subdue. So one is driving out, one is conquering. All right. So let me go back down here. Okay. So we now have the Golden Falcon name. Golden Falcon name would be Bik Nebu, which is Golden Falcon. Then we have Wasser and Put, Naketu.
Rich in years, great in victories.
All right, so that's Ramses. And then his throne name, we have 1, 2, 3 variations of his throne name. And his throne name is Nisudbiti. Some people will say that this is Sutin, the word Sutin, and that's incorrect. That's based on an error that E.A. Wallace Budge made. And I really wouldn't call that an error, just dry like that, because in E.A. Wallace Budge's dictionary, he also has the proper form of it as Nesut. So he has both Sutin and Nesut. But I remember in his time, he's writing in the late 1800s. So during his time, it was believed they didn't have as far as this particular word, they didn't have that understanding of what we call honorific transposition. All right, so they were pronouncing it as Sutin as opposed to um, Ni Sut. All right, so Ni Sut BT, and then we have Wissar Ma'at Ra Satepin Ra. I know Brother Ben runs that off real quick. But yeah, what's the meaning of that one?
That one is the justice of Ra. Is powerful, chosen of Ra.
Okay. And those are three variations. And now we have his family name. These are three variations of how the family name are depending on where it's at and the scribes that were doing it. We have Sarah, and then we have Ramesu Meriamin. And so what does that mean?
Ramses, the beloved of Amu.
All right, so there we go. So hopefully everybody can see, and like I said, I encourage everyone to. Now I had a third article, but I don't want to go through too much time. This is an article called Dinosaurs and Ancient Hieroglyphs Explained, but everybody can go to the website and read it. But the gist of the article is that this particular glyph right here that this finger is pointing to is claimed by some to be a dinosaur. And a particular dinosaur that they're talking about is this one. They're called a plesiosaur. A plesiosaur. So this is what people are claiming it to be, because even if you look at this black silhouette of it, it kind of looks like this. So here we are again at that look-alike technique. Okay, so they're trying to say this is a dinosaur and whatnot, but it's not. All right, so the gist, I'm not going to read the article, but the gist of the article is to show that this particular glyph is actually a duck. It's a trestled duck with his neck broken, and they drew it in this fashion to show that the neck was broken, and it stands for the word senej, which means to fear, to have respect of someone out of fear, kind of fear and respect, that little semantic exchange between fearing someone and having respect for someone. So senej, and that's what that duck represents. But people can, anyone watching this can come to the website and read the article. But here's some other pictures of ducks with their necks bent or broken. And like you see here, the ducks right here are being prepared. Duck right here, broken neck. See how the feet are flimsy, showing that the duck is dead. Here's a picture of they call it an ostraca of it wasn't finished. It was drawn and it was being carved, but it wasn't finished. But you can see this person's eating a duck, trestled duck. Here's one right here. See the neck is hanging off, and you see the opening right there. The duck is definitely dead. And here it is again. So people, and here it is again. And you can actually see the little niche right there as well, right there. All right, so no, it's not a dinosaur. It's an actual trestled duck. So you can't go from a dinosaur to a duck. But anyway, so I didn't want to read that and take up too much time. But everyone can read these articles on mdw-ntr.com website. And again, I did these articles almost 4 years ago, and I posted them on Facebook originally. And it was because I had so many conversations with people, and people were, making these claims. And so hopefully we can kind of put that to rest. And anybody, I encourage everyone to research this. Just don't take, don't just, believe and walk away, but research it. You'll find out, and share it. Whenever the subject comes up, share it with people. We have to educate people on what's real versus what's Memorex, what's live and what's Memorex. All right, so I'm gonna come back to YouTube land and unshare my screen. All right, so now I can see the chat. So I probably missed a whole lot of comments and questions. So give me a minute to catch up.
Nah, you just finna start laughing. You just finna start laughing, man.
Oh, what? What's? I mean,
Man, just read the comments. I kind of been feeling bad all day and kind of had a bad day, and man, they done just lift my spirits up tonight, man. They got me laugh. I'm telling you, go look through the whole thread. I mean, they got you laugh. I mean, they got you laughing, laugh. Gonna have you laughing. Especially that uh pseudo Messiah. I guess that's how you say his name. That boy there is mad funny, man.
oh, all right, that's good. So,
Strike.
yeah, but now this is the thing. I want people to walk away from our discussion of this to with an emphasis on methods, research methods, study habits. You know, um, we can't we can't do the lookalike test. We can't just, we call it the eyeball test. We can't just eyeball something and whatnot. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you were building your house and you had to put the foundation down, you had to put the studs up and everything like that, are you going to use a tape measure, or are you just going to eyeball? I mean, are you going to use some surveying tools and things, or are you just going to use your eyeball? No. So we shouldn't do this with research or anything. Or at the very least, if you know you're eyeballing something, then just own up to it. Like, just leave it as that. Like, hey, I'm just eyeballing this, and hey, based on the first appearance, it looks like an alien, but I'm not going to draw my conclusion on that. So we have to keep it in its proper context. So it's nothing wrong with eyeballs, because we all have eyes. People not blind, so we see. So if we see something, but our research shouldn't stop there. That's just very, very immediate. Like, oh man, that looks like an alien, but what is that? And then investigate. Or it looks like spaceships. Investigate. you know so I want everybody to walk away from this hangout, this discussion, with an emphasis on that. you know um and then, like I explain what these things are in the article, so go back and read it. If you got questions, comments, or if you disagree, by all means, if you disagree, just explain why you disagree, and break it down, and we can have a nice discussion about it. All right. So that's all I had to share for tonight. And this topic was recommended because a lot of alien talk was happening over the past week. You know, but remember what I said. Let me repeat what I said earlier. The entire the whole New Age movement and alien movement, as it relates to Egypt, is nothing more than a modern way to discredit Black Africans from being the forefathers and the mothers and fathers of such a great civilization, coming from Kush in the south to Kemet, whatever the case is, however you want to call it, Nubia, Kush, Kemet, that triad right there. There is a movement that is still in play that is trying to discredit Black Africans from being those people that's responsible. So the pyramids can't be figured out how it was built, so aliens must have did it. You know, that's the movement now, and a lot of people are buying into that, and we have to really stop that. We have to stop that. All right. Just know that the ancestors of the Nile Valley, the Remich, which is what they call themselves, the Remich. The word Remich is a they call it a pun. It's paronymy. It's a paronym of the word Remi, which means to cry, because the ancient Egyptians named themselves after a cosmological or cosmogonical concepts and principles that they adhered to, which they say they come from the tears of Ra. Okay, and the word for tears or to cry is the word Remi, and it was actually an epithet in the name of Ra as well. Remi, is another name for Ra. So the people of Egypt call themselves the descendants of Ra, or coming from the fluids or the tears of Ra, Remich. Okay, so remember that.
And they use they use water a lot. I mean, if you go and look and study all the different cosmology, like you made a reference about uh coming from the tears of Ra. I mean, like they everything when you look at the cosmology story where they talk about the premortal waters, the premortal waters. You know what I'm saying? Everything coming out of the waters. You study on one of the other cosmology, they reference some of the same thing you said. I can't remember something dealing with Atum coming from the egg. You familiar with that story?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they talk about the water. So every cosmology story, um you will see them referring to water, and water being basically the source of life. And if you study some of the other outside of Kemet, you will see they all of them, every other stories outside of Africa, they talk about liquid or water or the pre-mill waters, and this water being the substance of life. But yeah, it's called a premortal egg is what I was talking about with Atum, and referring to that. And then I was trying to find, because you were talking about it, because I actually was reading the premortal egg today. Well, actually studying it, going over it, and then reference some of the things from different other um, African tribes, and I was looking at some of the African tribes where, the people from the Dogon and some of the other people, they was, some of the same thing, premortal waters this, waters that, or they was talking about something I can't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and look where they was talking about something about creation, people coming into creation from the water falling from the skies. I don't know
Let me
which.
Over if you right there at your book, it's on 44 if you right there at your book. 43 if you right there at the Obenga.
So
Okay.
how you know I was studying Obanga book today?
Oh, I don't know. I know you got all kind of books, so I don't know.
So we got the ultimate,
And I saw your Facebook though.
we got the ultimate library right there. But hey, I want to make a comment about that though, because this is the thing. Water across the African continent, in most African communities, water is used as a metaphor for the primordial substance by which everything comes out of. And the reason why is because of the behavior or the makeup of water, how water acts and interacts with everything else. Because you have to remember, in order for everything to come into existence, it has to come from a substance that's flexible enough to become whatever it is to become. So water is a perfect metaphor for this kind of explanation, because water takes the shape of whatever container it's contained in.
That's right.
So the
Yeah.
primordial water represents this undifferentiated
Mm.
substance, this unformed, undifferentiated substance, and that's why they call it the. Some people will say the chaotic waters. Some people will say the abyss, and things like that. So water is used in a lot of different communities in Africa and off the continent of Africa as this priori substance from which everything else emerges. So, in Kemet they call it the Nini or the Noon, which means
Mm.
inert. So it goes from being inert, this always forever potentiality, into becoming something. So that's why water is used as a metaphor. It's not literal with the H2O water. It's used simply as a metaphor for all those things.
Hey,
Water also recreates itself, and so that goes into the procreation as far as its ability to evaporate and then condensate and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Precipitation.
It has that cycle. It goes through that cycle as well.
and ain't Ra when you go to the when Ra or going through the Duat, when he traveling through the premortal waters in the Duat.
Ra is usually on a boat.
Right, I'm saying, was he? Because I'm trying to see if I think I read that in some book a while back here. Um, that he was they referred to him on a boat boat, and he's in the duat, and he's in the bak. If I'm saying that right, how you pronounce the word for boat?
Oh, the manjet. It
Yeah,
depends on the mescanet,
ye-
mescat and manjet. You have the day boat and night boat.
okay, and they was referring to him in him referring to they was referring to the waters as the premortal waters as well as when Ra goes through travels through the Dua.
Hmm.
Is that I'm asking, is that correct? I mean, I read that a while. Ooh, that's been a while back here. I don't know what book that was. I read that in.
Well, I'm not sure about the water part because in the what's called the Amduat, and we have to. This is for people who are listening too. When we say Amduat, it's really Emiduat, which is a phrase that means within the underworld or that which is in the underworld. But people say, the Amduat. But in that realm, you have different you have different, I guess, documentation. You have the gates that you go through that's protected by a different netter, and you have to recite certain things to pass through the gate, and you're challenged at these different gates to do something, to do X, Y, and Z, whatever. Then and then there's the caverns, there's the gates, and then there's the field of reeds. There's a lake of fire. That people say that is the seed which gave way to the kind of Christian concept of the lake of fire in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. So it's different things, not necessarily the primordial waters. I'm saying all to say, there's different, depends on which story or which documentation you're talking about. But mostly it's not dealing with that. But the boat, it sails, and this is where we get the word mooring from, because you're actually gonna dock your boat, and they call it death. This is why the word moor ties into the word for dead or dying, because you're actually finishing, and you're tying off your boat. You're completing a journey, and then you moor to change boats from the day boat to the night boat, and you moor, um, and that night boat represents this decline. So now you're in the underworld. So your journey, you've died, but now you're living in the other world, and then you become part and parcel of the foremost of those people, which we know is Wasir. That's why he says, Kinti Aminti you, the foremost of the Westerners, the people who depart in the West. Okay, so in all this, and you're actually called Usir. This is why people who are dead, the deceased, they're called Usir. So and then you meet up with Ra, and Ra and Usir become one. And there's a picture in the tomb of Nefertari where you see both of them together combined. Where you see the ram's head of Ra in the form of a ram, and then he's mummified as Usir, and they combine and become one, and so on and so forth. But it's a whole process, and in that process, I'm not sure about the primordial waters.
I'm trying to figure out which one it was, because see, I don't read and I'm gonna have to go back and reread them again instead of because you get a lot of the story. I get a lot of the stories mixed up. I mean, like in the Book of Gates, because like some of the stuff that you talk about, I remember in the Book of Gates. I remember in the spells of the 12 calves, the Book of Day and Night, the Book of Caverns, the Book of Athia. So I don't read the Andawat,
Yeah, it's
the
easy. It's
celestial
easy to
crowd. So it's just easy. I mean, it's easy to get those. I mean, I just get them, get the stories and stuff mixed up. But it was in one of those books that I read. I don't know which one it was that they was talking about the premortal waters. Said and said. I don't know if it was. And then the one where you was talking about by the two gates. Which is that the book? If that is that the Book of Gates, or is it the Book of Day and the Book of Night?
and what I was talking about, the gates, as far as reciting and then going
Oh
through.
yeah, yeah, I knew which one that was, but you were saying one boat for the day and one boat for the night. So I was asking, was that
Well,
the
you'll
Book of
you'll
Day?
find that in the various different Puret and Heru, where
Mm.
it talks about the mini boat being tied off, and then there's a section, I believe it's in chapter 17 of the Puret and Heru, um, where the deceased can become anything he desires. and that's exactly what water does. It takes the shape of anything that is contained in, and things like that. So a lot of these things are kind of connected. But I was gonna say, see, a lot of these stories can be blurred up and you know, kind of confused, kind of be overlaid and get confusing. So that's how come, you know, I always encourage people to you know, read one at a time, and kind of keep it separate, you know, keep an eye on it in people's studies, because it can cross over, because we can get confused about the book of the celestial cow, the gates, the caverns, you know, all of these things. And there's a couple of other books that's not as popular. But let me
Yeah.
just say this though: the purpose of me even saying the thing about the Remich and the Tears of Ra is because I was saying that in regards to this alien stuff, we have to realize that the Remich people were geniuses, you know, and we have to tap into that genius. And this is the thing: anybody who believes that aliens did all that stuff, then it's quite natural that you're not going to try to pierce the minds of the ancient people of the Nile Valley, because you don't even think that they did that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But once we put the responsibility in the proper lap of the proper people, then we're gonna say, wait a minute, they built that. They built the temples. They did all that stuff. Then I need what they need. I need what they had. You know how people would joke and say, um, I'll have what she's having. You know what I'm saying? So we need to have what they had. We need to know how did they become such genius, and we need to tap into that. And that's why we even exist as the Seshew mdw-ntr. This is why I even teach the language and stuff, because we have to learn to let the ancestors speak, and we have to learn to listen. We have to learn to communicate. And they left a plethora of different artifacts for us to use as a resource for this. You know what I'm saying? So we have to learn the language. You know, there's people that are out there saying that the language haven't been deciphered or translated. I'm gonna tell you all, every single person that has ever said that I've heard say that, they do not study the language, and they do not understand the relationship between a writing system and the speech that it represents. They don't know anything about that. And that's not a bad thing in and of itself, but when those same people refuse to learn, then that's when it becomes a problem, you know. So now check this out. We have people who believe the alien stuff, and that they're responsible for Kemet. And I already told y'all the effect of that, because if you believe that, then you're not going to look at your own black African ancestors from all across the continent doing anything major. You're going to attribute it to aliens, you know, some gray. You know, I said, forget white and black. Let's just combine them and make gray. So they're big-headed grays, you know, from Zeta Reticuli or all these other planets that they claim, you know, or some reptilians and things like that. So now you're not going to look to your own people. So that's one. And like I said, that's a modern way to separate the greatness of Egypt from the reality of black Africans doing that stuff. So that's one. And then two, for those who do wise up and then want to kind of really know what was on the minds of the ancient Remich people, now you got people that will come behind that and bust that up by saying that the language was not transliterated, deciphered, or translated properly, or at all. You see what I'm saying? So there is a movement going on that is to prevent our people from really tapping in to the greatness of Africa. And it's not just Kemet. You know, it's all these African communities. You got many communities in West Africa, South Africa, in the Congo, and in Kemet. Kemet is the most literate. It has the most literature and artifacts and writings. So we actually have tangible things to work on. But you have oral traditions in the Congo, South Africa, West Africa, that are still alive to this very day. You know, but people want, you know, they want to keep that separated and everything, and we really have to cut that out. You know, so that's why I wanted to kind of glad to talk about this topic, to let people understand and people know that, you know, we're not gonna get anywhere by cutting off the communication from our ancestors. All right, and we do this all day, every day. We could translate all day, every day. We do it. So there's no such thing as you know, we can't do it, or this and that. You know, um, Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of say that, but I'm pretty much I don't want to shift gears and do my MC Iron Lung thing, but we just we have to just come to that realization that there is something, and I'm not saying it's some mysterious conspiracy of somebody sitting at some board table in a private room and they're orchestrating this conspiracy or anything like that, but we have to deal with the chronological order of events and how these things take place. There's a constant battle to keep the black genius down, okay, from the African scholars who are challenging and impeaching early Euro Egyptology. You got our own people agreeing with the biasness by trying to keep our great scholars such as Sheikh Anta Diop, just such as Dr. Theophilo Benga, and many others. They're trying to keep them on the periphery. They're trying to marginalize these scholars and call them fringe scholars. Their work is fringe work and things like that. We have to cut that out. We can't allow them to continue to do that. And they're being silent on the scientific data that's being presented. What they do is they mischaracterize the arguments and try to make it into a black or white thing, like, oh, these African scholars, all they want to do is do the opposite of Eurocentricity or Eurocentric work and whatnot. And that's kind of like the blow off. No, deal with the data, deal with the information, and they've done that to Sheikh Anta Diop. They did that to him. They did that to Dr. Theophilo Benga. Matter of fact, there's a good book that even talks about that. It's called The Conceptions of History, Sheikh Anta Diop and Theophilo Benga, by the author's name is Chris Gray. If I had a picture, I would show it on the YouTube. But it's a book. I recommend people to get that. It's by a European author who does a analysis of Sheikh Anta Diop's legacy, his work, and Dr. Theophilo Benga's work as being a colleague and student of Sheikh Anta Diop. Get that, read that, and it's a nice summary of the climate that they were working in, and we still are facing today. So from the alien thing to the language not being deciphered and stuff like that, we gotta look at that. It's all falls in the same category, to separate us from our genius, as though we couldn't invent such a brilliant writing system, So anyway, that's all I had. I know we've been on for 2 hours. I'm trying to keep up with these comments. I see Sean. I want to know what the source did he have that stated the language hasn't been deciphered. Nah, nobody agrees with that. Nobody. That's what I'm saying. Nobody in the scientific field of languages, which is linguistics, and then you have even Egyptologists. Nobody agrees with that. I tell you what. You can go to Amazon right now and type in the search bar of Amazon and just type in decipherment of hieroglyphs or hieroglyphic decipherment or whatever. And look at the results you'll get of all the books that talk about the method of decipherment and all the whole story between Champollion to Thomas Young to Champollion's bigger brother, Jacques Joseph. I forget the other ones off the top of my head, but there's a whole bunch. Even Ibn Washir. I mean, you'll find a whole bunch of books that talk about all that stuff, the process that they went through, and things like that. And then the level of accuracy, the corrections that was made by people who came right after them, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of books out there that speak to that, but you will not find any grammar about the language, or even an introductory book about the language where the author is saying that the language was not deciphered or translated. Matter of fact, in every single grammar, you can go to Gardner, you can go to Uncle Miraz's book, you can go to James P. Allen, James Hotch, you can go to Adolf Ehrman, even Budge has a little semi-grammar, and even the foreign grammars in French, in Dutch, in these other languages, every single one will tell you that the language has been deciphered and they'll, speak on the process and the whole nine. So that's to answer you, brother Sean, that, the fact that um, no one says that. No one believes that. All right. So anyway, anybody else have any comments? Because I see I'm hogging the mic big time.
I just wanted to say at the end of the day, we still do this to uncover a lot of stuff that we can use today, whether we find it in different teachings, sayings, lessons, or whether it's in something from Ptah, Hotep, Annie, Kareni, you know, are we discovering something in the mathematical papyrus? Are we seeing, are we finding something how they angled the pyramids? Or, a lot of people say, well, y'all just studying the language. Well, how's that helping us today? People dying today, and but it's a lot of good base information that we're discovering all the time. I mean, stuff about good characters and having good morals. I'm talking about base stuff, not none of this quick, fast microwave stuff, but stuff that you can build foundations on and stuff for generations. That stuff that once we're gone, it has to carry on the generations that we leave behind. But I just wanted to put that out there because some people still be stuck on, oh, y'all just, it's a dead language. And I really like that article that you did when you went back and you pointed to all the languages that everybody brought to the table, with Diop, with the Wolof, and then the different stages, with the Yoruba and the different languages you brought up. I was trying to find the article, but I couldn't find it. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, I'll read it. Well, I'm not gonna read it. It's a bunch of dates on here, but you talking about when talking about Negro Egyptian?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I was just pointing out the fact that because a lot of people don't know, so I just did a quick post about the Negro Egyptian language phylum. I was saying for those who may not know, the Dakar or Ethiopian or the African School of Historiography, Egyptology, Linguistics, etc., has already come up with a scientifically proven language phylum, and the word phylum means family, called Negro Egyptian, and that term is used by Homberger, who has a book from 1929, Obinga 1993, Jean-Claude Mboli 2010, Mubabinge Bilolo 2011, Asar Imhotep 2015 and 2016. The languages of Kemet have been shown to be related to such languages as Wolof, as Diop explains in 1977, 1991, related to Bantu, as explained by Theophilo Benga in 1992, 1993, as well as Bilolo explains in 2010, 2011, as well as the African scholar Ndigi in 2002. It's also related to collagen, as explained by the African scholar Sambu in 2007 and 2011. It's related to Fulani by African scholar last name Lam, 1994. It's related to Yoruba, which work was done by the African scholar Oduyoye in 1984, 1996. These demonstrations alone should have forced the reclassifications of the standard language families, the standard being the ones that people are used to. The Negro Egyptian language phylum is a family of languages that have been scientifically established by the rigorous historical comparative method demonstrated in Obinga's work in 1993 and in Mboli's work in 2010. These languages include, now listen to this list: Middle Egyptian, Coptic, Yoruba, Chiluba, Kikongo, isiZulu, Zande, Somali, Sango, Mande, Nuer, Hausa, Lingala, Wolof, Collagen, Fulani, Zerma, Kiswahili, Gabeya, Banda, Bambara, and Common Bantu. The work of these African scholars addressed the shortcomings of the standard labels created by Joseph Greenberg in 1963. And Joseph Greenberg classified them by the ones that most people know, which is Khoisan, Nido-Saharan, Afroasiatic, and Niger-Congo. which were organized based on typological criteria and the mass comparative method. This is why the African scholars say that these language phylums are pseudo, meaning that they're not real, they're not genetic families. They are typological families. And that's a difference. And this is something that people have to understand. Now, to the layperson, it may not make a difference one way or the other. But to the people who are either students of linguistics or want to pursue that study, or linguists themselves, there's an understanding of what's meant by typological categories or classifications as opposed to genetic classifications. There's a difference. So and so none of these so-called families or phylums were established by the historical comparative method, which is the method for reconstructing genetic language families. So the scientific work of our African scholars have rendered Greensburg categories or language borders non-existent by Greensburg's own principles of classification. So let me just quickly say what that means. It's basically like this. If, like for example, because there's debate in the field, or on the periphery of the field, because linguists themselves, they know what time it is. But the thing is that Egyptian, first of all, Egyptian is being called one language. It's not. There were several languages in Egypt. Okay, so that's number one. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say Egyptian. So they place Egyptian within the larger phylum called Afroasiatic. So this is analogous to you going to your family reunion, and you're there at the family reunion, you're seeing all your relatives right there, okay? And this is it. This is your family. You know what I'm saying? You got a whole tree, a family tree right there. And so now you come find out that you are related to someone else that's not present at your reunion and not on your tree. But you have found out that you are genetically related to that other person. So what would you do in normal circumstances? You would normally include that person in your tree, because you now have confirmed that, okay, you're related to the person, so you're going to include them on a tree. But now, prior to you including them, that person themselves went to their own family reunion and have their own tree. But now you've established a relationship with that person, so now not only do they come, their whole tree comes. Okay, so what's going on is that Egyptian being placed in the Afroasiatic language family, or family of languages, once it was proven by these African scholars that Egyptian is related to Wolof, Bambara, and the languages that I mentioned, you can no longer say that it is part of an Afroasiatic, or the description or the hypothesis of Afroasiatic, it goes out the window, because that is not an ample explanation to describe the relationships that we see between Egyptian and Wolof, Egyptian and isiZulu, Egyptian and Kikongo, and all these other languages that are outside of the Afroasiatic language family. So I hope everybody understands that. So these language families are attempts to explain these relationships, and they're no longer tenable today. They're no longer valid, because we can show the relationship between Egyptian and Wolof. Wolof is not an Afroasiatic language, so what's up with that? So we have to reclassify, and that's what these African scholars did, and Jean-Claude Mboli has been the pioneer for that, and has scientifically proven and reclassified these languages. So this is why we are dealing with Negro Egyptian. All right, and Negro Egyptian is a term that Theophilo Benga coined and made, into a title, and Jean-Claude Mboli simply kept it. But it's a family of languages. All right, so that's how come, we say the Afroasiatic is not a real language phylum, and Nilo-Saharan and all this other stuff. So, and like I said, this is coming from the African school of these different various sciences. Africans are putting in the rigor that European scholars failed to do. but it's just that there's a you know, the train was running, and then you know you can't just stop the train on a dime. You got to slow the train down first and then reverse it. So that's what's going on. So people just got to catch up to the information. You know what I mean? So anyway, I know we about to approach this 3 hour mark, and kind of got a little off topic, but I just want to emphasize that that the overall point today, I hope people walk away with, you know, just applying rigor to your studies. Don't take things at face value. You know, actually investigate everything. Don't take anything on the internet, you know, just on the surface. Even people that use Wikipedia or look up different things, do your best to do literature review. You know, Dr. Ma'at recently spoke about research methodology. You know, she did an excellent job at summarizing that. You know, and by the way, let me say this too before we get off. One, the Seshew meta-ntr, known as hieroglyphs, have been deciphered, has been translated. We do know about the language, we do know about its grammar and all of that. All right, there are classes for anybody who want to learn. You can go to mdw-ntr.com and sign up and register for classes. There's a complimentary book to the classes that I wrote called A Beginner's Introduction to mdw-ntr. The book and the class go together, but you don't have to take the class to get the book or vice versa. You can get the book and learn on your own if that's what you wish. But there's a study class, interactive study class for that. That's one. Two, I recommend everyone to get University of Kemet Press books. They have a book called Seba, a book called Study Teams, a book called Ma'at, African Time, Box Squared, and a whole list of books, all of their books. Get them if you can afford them. Afford to get them all at once, get them. You know, those books are highly they're written by Deka Kilimanjaro, his wife Ife Kilimanjaro, and our good brother Yahra Ahneb. And that team over there is doing some excellent work. All right, they're experienced. They have PhDs. They have experience in teaching, setting up curriculum, setting up pedagogical studies, and the whole nine. All right. Also get Asar Imhotep's latest publications. He has a publication called Where's the Love? His latest one is Nisu Biti, King in Ancient Egypt, A Lesson in Paronymy and Leadership. Everybody should get that book because in the first chapter, he dedicated the first chapter to the linguistic process of Jean-Claude Mboli, you know, because Jean-Claude Mboli's work is in French, all right? And also he does an excellent job of explaining the phenomenon of paronymy as a tool for cultural advancement and come up with these different concepts and things. It's written, you know, you're going to have to take your time reading it because there's a lot of linguistic terminology and descriptions and things like that, but get it and read it. Also, I also recommend, I just got this book, and I recommend everybody to support the sister Amalima in Jai. I'm probably butchering her last name, excuse me. That's the brother Ben's wife. And she has a book called The Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1, a poetry novel. Has a real nice cover. I haven't actually read it yet, but it just came in, so I will be reading this. But it's the sister's first book, as well as let's see who else do we have out there that has some books. Any of y'all can recall anybody else, you know, in far as the you know the circles that we people are we familiar with? Oh, get any book by Dr. Raketi Amen. She has a book called Conversational Seshew mdw-ntr. Conversational mdw-ntr. I believe it's called I have it right here, Wajat Wafa, Conversation and Phrase Book, English to mdw-ntr. Get that book. Definitely get that book. What else? I know somebody else got something else, right? Somebody open their mic up.
I'll get match our work.
Yeah, definitely. Brother Jonathan Owens. Can't forget the Magi. He has a book called Magi, the Vanguards of Kemet, Handbook of the Conscious Community. Get that. That book was written in the wake or the aftermath of, the Kemet on trial, debating and things like that. So a lot of the issues that was brought up during that time frame was addressed by the brother Jonathan. Definitely get that. Um,
Yeah, yeah, check out I'm in my Ra. Shout out to I'm in my Ra. He's a part of the Massa Warrior clan. He has four books out. I read all four of his books. They are great work. So support that brother again. Amin Ma'at Ra. He's a part of the Massa clan.
all right, you know what? And matter of fact, at the description, after we go off the air, I'll make sure I put the links to all of these things so people have easy access because people will may listen to this archive and see that. But we have to support our own. See, this is the thing. You know, if we don't do it, nobody's gonna do it. All right, people can debate all day long and everything. People could debate all day long and be wrong as well. So, debating is good. Debating allows us to advance the body of knowledge, but people have to learn how to debate. They have to learn how to structure a debate, how to structure an argument, how to articulate your argument, how to, even before you come up with a claim, you have to cover your preliminary basis. You know, so everything can be all good. We just have to do better at this. But we have to support our own. People are writing books, and we need to support, and we need to be open to critique and criticism as well. Because we make mistakes all along, and that's part of the work. We have to evaluate our elder scholars, some who are still here, some who have passed away, and we need to update information if it needs to be. If it's not, then we bring it along. It's just that simple. We have to keep that thing going, keep it going, and this is just the way that we've always been. You know, but I'm trying to think of any other books. I mentioned Jonathan, I mentioned
M M for DG.
Yeah, somebody did mention Fundishis.
yeah,
Yeah, M for
what is
DG.
that, Spiritual Warriors. I believe that was.
Yeah.
Mm.
What is it? Something spiritual waters or healers. I forgot. It's something like
Right.
that.
Right. We'll put a link on this. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
from Dishi. Now, like I said, anybody who's interested in learning the language at a beginner's level, later on in the year, it's September now, so maybe during the winter time, I will begin to start teaching the grammar. Okay, but as of now, we have an ongoing uh, new creation of classes on a beginner's level. So anybody who wants to brush up on the beginner's foundation stuff, or if you want to learn it for the first time, just inbox me, inbox anybody in the Seshew mdw-ntr as a group. Get in touch with us. Go to the website. You can just register. You can just go straight to the website and register, and I'll know about it and everything, and we can get started.
Oh,
Well, go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna tell people to. I don't know when, but soon. Be on the lookout for my book too. The Ra document, the overstanding of Ra and his many manifestations. So it'll be out sometime next year if I can stay consistent and uh, putting it all together.
All right, well, hey, that's good. We're gonna definitely look forward to that, and I'm sure it's gonna be some more books. Matter of fact, the brother Uncle Keck of the Amara Squad, Amara Squad, up to all the Amara Squad members, who are my colleagues. Brother Unc is coming out with a book sometime soon as well, and then his publications. Brother Sanjeti is working on the publication. Sarmotep is always working on more and more publications. But we have to support our own, and we have to expand the body of knowledge. We have to correct. And that's one thing about the African school of Egyptology, or the African school of this entire scientific endeavor. That's one thing that Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop brings to the table as well, and it's not that unfamiliar with the American model of Egyptology with what's his name, Charles Wilbur. I believe the Wilbur Library is named after Charles Edwin Wilbur, who was the father of American Egyptology. That was his niche. He came on the scene. I'm speaking of Wilbur. He came on the scene correcting everybody to the point where they had to acknowledge his corrections. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't an ego thing whatsoever. His whole thing was to make the information accurate, and that's the African school. One of the African schools principle is to make sure everything is accurate. This is why Jean-Claude Mboli dispensed with all those language classifications and built the entire language phylum of Negro Egyptian from the ground up. He was like, forget the mess. Let me start over from scratch. So he wiped the board clean and just started from scratch and built it up. So the level of accuracy, the level of rigor that's applied is what the African school is known for. All right, and we have to champion behind that. All right, so we got to support our people that are writing books. Anybody is interested in writing books, consult with people who've done so already. Bumps and bruises, things you learn. When you know better, you do better. So that's what it's all about. So, and then I like the fact that Damo, you said that why are we learning the language and things like that. Just got my last comment, and then I'll finish for the night. One of the things we have to remember, just on some basic common sense, is that everything that we do, all actions that we do, all actions, period, everywhere, but all actions that we do as individuals, they don't start as an action. Everything that we do starts mentally first. All of the acts that we do, it comes from a place of basically how we think and how we are. So the thing is that there is a lack of focus on our mental health. And by mental health, I don't mean, retardation and stuff like that. I'm talking about just our mental health. Everyone is becoming a vegetarian. Everyone get into the alkaline water movement and all of this and that. But we also have to focus on, prior to all of our actions, where's our mind? What's the health of our mind? What's the health of everything prior to us actually manifesting an action or a thought and things like that? So learning a lot about the inscriptions and different documents that's left in Kemet, you'll find that a lot has to do with just that, trying to cultivate the spirit. People call it the spirit, but we know that the word spirit has to deal with psychology, deals with the spirit and the constructions of the mind, all going all the way back in the European aspect to Sigmund Freud and things like that, where they demarcate the different functions of the spirit, of the ego, the superego, the id, and things like that. Well, in Africa, they've been there, done that. All right, so in Kemet, when we see the breakdown of different components of the spirit, the Ba, the Seku, the Aku, or Sekim, the Aku, the Ren, the Sahu, the Kaibit, the Kat, and I'm sure I'm missing some, but you get the idea. All these things were already broken down. Okay, so there's a cultivation of the spirit, the cultivation of the mind, and all these principles that go with it, that precedes all of our actions. So if we want to do better, we got to think better. All right, and learning this language will allow us to tap into the mentality of the ancients that is applicable today. And we can manifest greater things. Obviously, we're not going to walk around with our chests all bare and with these shindit, which is called the kilt things that you have. We're not going to walk out barefooted on the streets of New York or these cities and things like that. That's the outward expression of these things, but the inward mentality and the cultivation of the spirit and the mind, that's applicable at all times. All right, so that's a major benefit. And that's slept on. That's the most slept on aspect of doing this kinds of studies. We have to get back into that. All right, so I won't be long-winded with that.
Yeah, I was just gonna plug a book, just in case people want to go and look up the information you were talking about for the spirit. And I ain't gonna forget you this time, Antoine, but Antoine was the one put me on the book, and that's the 9 Eyes of Light. So I mean, it's a pretty thick book. I done read the book. You may have to read the book, maybe twice. It's a pretty deep book. It kind of reminds me. It's a work of of what's his name? Saber. I don't want to pronounce the L. His name. What is it? Rodnefer. What I can't. I don't forgot it. But I forgot the author name. What's the author name? We was talking about. You know, we had to read. We was talking about a while back about
Oh, you mean Raul Nefra Amen of the
yeah.
Autoset Society.
Right. His if anybody familiar with his work, you know his work's pretty deep. You can't just read it one time. You got to probably read it 4 or 5 times. This 9 Eyes of Light is somewhat
Who
familiar.
authored that? 'Cause you mentioned the title, but who's the author?
I can't even remember what the title is. I don't even feel like it.
The author name was Padma
Okay, well,
Prakashar.
yeah, we'll make sure we put it in the description. You know, after.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good. But that's a pretty good book. It actually breaks down. It actually gives in the first section of the introduction, it goes through all 9 parts, and then it goes deeper. Each chapter, it goes into it a little bit deeper. So you might some people may have to read it like I say a couple times to
All right.
understand it. But it's a good book.
Well, yeah, I always tell people ask me, what books would I recommend, people to get, and a lot of times it'll be about Egypt, so that because they know, I focus on Kemet and things like that. But people ask me, well, what books you recommend? And I tell people to get everything, get everything that you can, and but I do caution people. I tell people to get everything, but I caution people to don't try to read them all fast or read a little bit from each one. Make sure you set up your own personal curriculum, because sometimes we can get scatterbrained and start reading from various different sources, and you just get a what you call a gumbo of information in your mind, and it doesn't do you any good. So I tell people to get everything. But if there was one book, and I'm gonna say this, I always say this, if I had to name just one book to recommend to people about Kemet, hands down, it would be Dr. Theophilo Benga's African Philosophy, the Pharaonic Period from 2780 to 330 BC. That's the title of his book. That book right there does an excellent job at giving several different primary sources and commentary that sums up the African philosophy. You know, so that's I just always want to say that if I'm ever held to limited to one book as a recommendation, yeah, there you go, Kofi, you got it up on your screen right there. Yep.
Mhm.
So yeah, if I had to be limited to one book to recommend, but fortunately I'm not limited. I tell people to get everything. There's a whole bunch of books I could list, but yeah, if I had to be limited to that book,
Yeah,
one.
say, but I was. Oh, sorry. I was thinking about that the other day. What would be my survival pack? Say you had to only you could only grab 5 books that you could take with you, and those 5 books you would have to build families with these books. And I thought about that African philosophy, the one you named, the African Time book by Kemet Press, because it covers such a great time period. It covers a lot. It covers science. It covers a whole lot of subjects in that one book. That Mayat book, and I couldn't think of nothing else past that. I mean, maybe y'all could add something to it, but I knew that Mayat book was pretty necessary. That African Philosophy by Obenga that you mentioned, and an African Time book by Kemet Press.
So we only could only take 5. What happened if we took more than 5?
Oh, you can't carry them all. You got to get your family. You got clothes, water.
I
Hey,
think
listen, no, Kofi, he be like, man, forget that water.
I ain't lying. I sure would to get that water, man.
I'm
I'll
gonna
tell you.
eat these pages. I'm gonna drink these pages.
You right, man. You play. You laugh. I mean, I'm laughing, but you serious, man. Them my babies, man. I got to take them.
Yeah, my books got birth certificates.
Yeah, them my babies, man. I got to take them. My alarm went off one day, and they had the people call my wife before they called. Oh, well, they didn't call me. My wife called, and I had thought somebody may have broken my house, but because the alarm went off, and I wasn't studying that. The first thing I asked my wife was, how my books doing? They ain't get my book, did they? I ain't was studying nothing else but my book.
Shame on the mess right there. But yeah, yeah, books. Books are important, and that's the thing. We got to get back to reading too. And I'm seeing this phenomenon where one, academia or scholarly works are being demonized, and then reading is being demonized. Now, how they're being demonized? They're being demonized because they always kind of attribute it to quote unquote the white man's stuff or the white man's way of doing this and doing that. I feel that um, those are lazy ways of just not wanting to do the work. You know what I'm saying? As if to say that Africans can't be just as scholarly, just as academic, and just as whatever. We are the originators of the scientific method. People have to understand that. Even in the Nile Valley, the method was perfected, called Tep Hesab, and it's step by step, parallel to the scientific method of how it's described today. Matter of fact, the word Hesab is the Semitic word in Arabic for the word computer, Hasab, and it means to calculate. So Tep Hesab is the best way to calculate things. And to calculate, you have to examine, you have to explore, you have to experiment, all that kind of stuff. So it all breaks down. But we have to get back into reading and stuff like that, and taking our time. So we got to slow the microwaveism down, man. Throw the microwave in the trash and start using your oven again. But hey, we on 3 hours now, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. I was trying to follow the comments, boy, but everybody's commenting about the books and everything. So hopefully everything is all good. Subscribe now. Spread the word. Subscribe to the channel. Encourage other people to subscribe who are interested. Now we're not trying to proselytize and get like 1 million viewers and stuff like that. We want people that's interested in the subject matter, participate, the whole nine. Join the Facebook group, Seshew Ma'ani mdw-ntr Facebook group. Look up any of us. I'm on Facebook under the same name, Wujau. All right, you type in Wujau. I think I'm the only one with that name. You'll find me. Join the Facebook group, subscribe, spread the word, and let us know what you think. Critique if you disagree. Let's discuss. Discuss it. Disagreements are healthy. It's just when people get all bent out of shape about it. But no, we're not like that. We're the Seshew Ma'ani mdw-ntr. We emphasize good character. We emphasize maturity. We emphasize the ability to articulate your thoughts to one another. We want to establish good relationships with people, especially like-minded people. And that's what we're about. And we're a group now. The group is not a closed group. We're open for new people who want to join in. If you want to be about things that we do and the things that we're gonna be doing, then inquire about it. Hit us up. And with that, I will pass it off to our sister Sonnet Tonica that can close out. Oh, Hotep, Satep, boy, I tell you, Satep done snuck up in here, boy. Satep and Ra. He probably have his mic muted. Satep, you there? Boy, Satep done pulled a fast one. He done snuck in.
The aliens took him.
Oh, he was abducted. Satep, boy. But anyway, Hotep to Satep, I think his mic's really probably doing something else. But okay, so yeah, I passed the mic over to you, Sonnet Tonica. You can close us out.
All right, I'll say.
Let me ask you real quick before you close.
All right, okay.
Ask you because I saw some beautiful pictures that you posted up of some nice writing in Seshew mdw-ntr and all that good stuff. So what's going to happen with that? What's up with that? Tell people about that.
Yeah, I'm still working on putting together the curriculum, the syllabus, and all that, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's something that we all have to learn how to do. Write. We read it, and then it'll be cool to learn how to write it, since it's a language that we are hoping to working on reviving and all that. So we need to learn how to write, and we'll start with the basics, but it's just working on putting it together in a way that is understandable and can be done pretty quick and well. So I will definitely, let you know when you're almost done with everything. But just working on putting out a proper curriculum on it at the moment. But
So,
it's fun.
sounds
It's
good.
definitely fun to learn how to write it.
All right, that sounds good because I'm waiting on that. But yeah, you can close us out definitely.
Okay. All right. So I'll say like coffee. Duau for everybody that tuned in today. I know it's Wednesday. We usually emphasize on methodology and on translating and transliterating and the glyphs. As a matter of fact, I'll just share my screen real quick because I wanted to put that in just so remember. I mean, today we went a little bit off, but it's not really off because can you all see my screen?
To you.
Yeah, it's not really off because, as we always say every Wednesday, our purpose is to give examples of how Sesh Medu is translated. In doing so, we also address number one, that the Sesh Medu script has been deciphered. Number two, the methods for doing so. And number three, to demonstrate that with time and patience, anyone can do it. So this is something that we always do every Wednesday. And the whole point of actually doing this today was because of some people saying that this hasn't been done. But we welcome anybody that is watching right now or and after in the archives to definitely go through our archives and watch all that and learn, because I mean the whole point is it can be done. And what we do is we demonstrate that we were at a point where we didn't know it, and now we know, and we're still learning it. And we welcome everybody to do that instead of actually just backing away and saying that it hasn't been deciphered and you can't learn it. And with that, I will also say that definitely tune in on Friday, because on Fridays we walk through the glyphs without any tools, without dictionary. So we test our skills, and it will be fun. And we always have the participation of the people in the chat or the people watching. And definitely tune in this Friday for our Freestyle Fridays, as we always do. And I will definitely say thank you very much, Dua, for tuning in. And I'll say get an affair. That is good night, and Shemim Hotep. Go in peace.